Let me read you something about, a story. I got something for you. This is Dan Brown's digital portrait. And I have to never say anything in it. Chapter 34. Let's have a look here. Susan, one second. I need these glasses off. Susan sat alone in node 3, waiting for her tracer. Hale had decided to step outside and get some air, a decision for which she was grateful. Oddly, however, the solitude of node 3 provided little asylum. Susan found herself struggling with the new connection between Tancado and Hale. Who will guard the guards, she said to herself. Qui custodiet ipsos custodes? The words kept circling in her head. Susan forced them from her mind. Her thoughts turned to David, hoping he was all right. She still found it hard to believe he was in Spain. And sooner they found the pass keys and ended this, the better. Susan had lost track of how long she'd been sitting there waiting for her tracer. 2 hours? 3? She gazed out at the deserted crypto floor and wished her terminal would beep. There was only silence. The late summer sun had set. Overhead, the automatic fluorescence had kicked on. Susan sensed time was running out. She looked down at her tracer and frowned. Come on, she grumbled. You've had plenty of time. She palmed her mouse and clicked her way into the tracer's status window. How long have you been running anyway? Susan opened the tracer status window, a digital clock. Much like the one on Translator, it displayed the hours and minutes her tracer had been running. Susan gazed at the monitor, expecting to see a readout of hours and minutes. But she saw something else entirely. What she saw stopped the blood in her veins. Tracer aborted. Tracer aborted, she choked aloud. Why? In a sudden panic, Susan scrolled wildly through the data, searching the programming for any commands that might have told the tracer to abort. But her search went in vain. It appeared her tracer had stopped all by itself. Susan knew this could mean only one thing. Her tracer had developed a bug. Susan considered bugs the most maddening asset of computer programming because computers followed a scrupulously precise order of operations. The most minuscule programming errors often had crippling effects. Simple syntactical errors, such as a programmer mistakenly inserting a comma instead of a period, could bring entire systems to their knees. Susan had always thought the term bug had an amusing origin. It came from the world's first computer, the Mark I, a room-size maze of electromechanical circuits built in 1944 in a lab at Harvard University. The computer developed a glitch one day and no one was able to locate the cause. After hours of searching, a lab assistant finally spotted the problem. It seemed a moth had landed on one of the computer circuit boards and shorted it out. From that moment on, computer glitches were referred to as bugs. "I don't have time for this," Susan cursed. Finding a bug in a program was a process that could take days. Thousands of lines of programming needed to be searched to find a tiny error. It was like inspecting an encyclopedia for a single typo. Susan knew she had only one choice: to send her tracer again. She also knew the tracer was almost guaranteed to hit the same bug and abort all over again. Debugging the tracer would take time she and the commander didn't have. But as Susan stared at her tracer, wondering what error she'd made, she realized something didn't make sense. She had used this exact same tracer last month with no problems at all. Why would it develop a glitch all of a sudden? As she puzzled, a comment Strathmore made earlier echoed in her mind. "Susan, I tried to send the tracer myself, but the data it returned was nonsensical." Susan heard the words again. The data it returned. She cocked her head. Was it possible? The data it returned? If Strathmore had received data back from the tracer, then it obviously was working. His data was nonsensical, Susan assumed, because he had entered the wrong search strings. But nonetheless, the tracer was working. Susan immediately realized that there was one other possible explanation for why her tracer aborted. Internet programming flaws were not the only reasons programs glitched. Sometimes there were external forces, power surges, dust particle on circuit boards, faulty cabling. Because the hardware in Node 3 was so well tuned, she hadn't even considered it. Susan stood and strode quickly across Node 3 to a large bookshelf of technical manuals. She grabbed a spiral binder marked SysOp and thumbed through. She found what she was looking for, carried the manual back to her terminal, and typed a few commands. Then she waited while the computer raced through a list of commands executed in the past 3 hours. She hoped the search would turn up some sort of external interrupt, an abort command generated by a faulty power supply or defective chip. Moments later, Susan's terminal beeped. Her pulse quickened. She held her breath and studied the screen. Error code 22. Susan felt a surge of hope. It was good news. The fact that the inquiry had found an error code meant her tracer was fine. The trace had apparently aborted due to an external anomaly that was unlikely to repeat itself. Error code 22. Susan racked her memory trying to remember what code 22 stood for. Hardware failures were so rare in Node 3 that she couldn't remember the numerical codings. Susan flipped through the SysOp manual, scanning the list of error codes. 19. Corrupt hard partition. 20. DC spike. 21. Media failure. When she reached number 22, she stopped and stared a long moment. Baffled, she double-checked her monitor. Error code 22. Susan frowned and returned to the SysOp manual. What she saw made no sense. The explanation simply read, 22, manual, abort. Whole chapter, chapter 24. And so have you read your Peter 3:24s yet? How about the birth date of Mark Carney? What's he, the 24th Prime Minister of Canada? I had to learn his name because for a long time I was unsure who the Prime Minister of Canada actually was again. And I don't know where it left off, but I think I got the name right, and his birthday lies on my birthday, so and that's quite interesting too. Yes, we'll smoke to that one. So what's going on in your life? Let's have a little bit of music here. One second. It's loading. It's wonderful having internet again. Even though it's LTE, it's still pretty good. Didn't know Vodafone was in Texas.
In the 19th century, David Agmashenabeli Avenue developed as the cosmopolitan heart of Tbilisi's left bank. German colonists and European architects transformed the corridor into a neighbourhood of elegant houses, lush botanical gardens and early theatres, making it the ultimate gathering place for the city's high society. By the late 1920s, that passion for performance gave birth to an industry.
You know, je pense les États-Unis, the EU, your Scala. J'ai cherché encore ici. Okay. So what this thing is here that I just picked out, it's lying in my desk here. This is the tarot symbols of planets, and let me try to describe it to you. Mercury is a circle with a cross on the bottom, and on the top there's like this little semicircle. And Venus is a circle with a cross on the bottom. Earth is a circle with a cross on the top, I believe, or a triangle with a dash through it. Mars is a circle with a diagonal, kind of like an arrow. And Jupiter looks like a 24 to me. Here's that magic number 24 again. It's a 2. It's like a 2, and there's a dash through it, and it kind of looks like 24. And Saturn kind of looks like an H to me with a dash through it. So, what does that mean? En français, H. Kind of like the hush. The pilgrimage to Mecca. You go to Saturn. The black cube. Saturn is a cube. And there's some interesting things about NASA for that. On the I believe the North Pole of Saturn, there's actually a hexagram. And a hexagram has 6 sides, just like a cube. Man, I think you can actually fold a hexagram into a cube. But what do I know? So anyways, that's that. Would you like to hear a little bit more about this story? When I bought it, it put me to sleep. But after some time reading it again, over and over, and random chapters, the #1 New York best-selling author of Da Vinci Code is Dan Brown. He writes this digital fortress. The ultimate code is powerful, dangerous, and unbreakable. I picked this book up in the book section of the Frankfurt train station, the main Bahnhof, Hauptbahnhof. So, when the Never Say Anything's invincible code-breaking machine encounters a mysterious code it cannot break, the agency calls its head cryptographer, Susan Fletcher, a brilliant and beautiful mathematician. What she uncovers sends shock waves through the corridors of power. The Never Say Anything is being held hostage, not by guns or bombs, but by a code so ingeniously complex that if released, it would cripple US intelligence. Caught in an exhilarating tempest of secrecy and lies, Susan Fletcher battles to save the agency she believes in. Betrayed on all sides, she finds herself fighting not only for her country, but also for her life. And in the end, for the life of the man she loves. Digital Fortress is the best and most realistic techno-thriller to reach the market in years. A chilling thrill a minute, says the Midwest Book Review. Exciting! Will rivet cyber-minded readers, says Booklist. In this fast-paced, plausible tale, Brown blurs the line between good and evil enough to delight patriots and paranoids alike, says Publishers Weekly. In the US, $7.99, in Canada, $10.99. And that's dollars. Yeah, I bought it for a few euros, I guess. I keep on going back to it. It's an interesting tale about rings and murders and spy stuff. all the stuff that you don't really want to find too exciting.